know, what are some movies that you find unsettling, maybe traumatizing, or just flat out just painful to watch? They might be great movies, they might be terrible movies, but what are some movies that just sting? I'd really like to know. So if you could comment down below, let's hop into the video. We're not doing rhymes or limericks every time. That's a one-time deal. Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters, and welcome back to another recommendation list. This time, like I said in the intro, we're talking about movies that sting, movies that are unsettling, movies that you could even consider traumatizing. As most of these are, as I like to say, this is a very personal list. There's going to be a little bit of story time for a couple of these picks. A lot of you guys seem to like that, so I obviously love doing it because I think it just makes this a bit more meaningful, and I love connecting with you guys. So let's keep it up. But nonetheless, yes, these are my picks, so if you do not agree with them, if you think that they're a little bit too soft for you, I've got a lot of other lists talking about a lot of really disgusting, disturbing, downright appalling films all over the channel. You can find a playlist down below, so maybe those will be your speed, but for the good folks who have been following me for a little bit, you know I like to talk about other kinds of disturbing traumas, unsettling stuff. And this one, I mean, this one, it's a tough one. This is going to be rough. But as always, thank you for stopping by. If you are new here, I appreciate you clicking on the video. If you like it, I'd appreciate it if you could hit that like button, of course. And if you do think that we've earned it or deserve it, please join the Splattercast community by hitting that subscribe button. We're on our way to 50,000 subs, and it would really mean the world if you could join us. And coming in at my number 5 pick, we have to go with 2011's The Descendants. A land baron tries to reconnect with his 2 daughters after his wife is seriously injured in a boating accident. When I said I was going to get personal with this list, I was really had this film in mind, because I do not blame people if they wouldn't consider this a movie that's necessarily going to really rock you. I think that it definitely could be a tearjerker. It could definitely bring some sad moments, to your viewing. You know, you're not going to be the happiest by the end of this one.
Your mother's not well.
Yeah, obviously.
No. They just told me she's not going to wake up. We know for sure now. The doctors are going to stop caring for her. Understand what I'm saying? That's why I got you. Honey, we're letting her go.
But I honestly can say that this is a very personal film to me because I have been some of these characters before. Both my biological mother, when I was 13, passed away, and then just last year my stepmother passed away, and I got to kind of live in the same shoes in a sense of what these characters are doing. You know, I got to watch my father go through this and experience it once as a child and then experience it again as an adult. So I've kind of developed this almost really upsetting but also kind of homey, this is kind of like my comfort blanket sad movie, because I do also really enjoy the film. I think that it's certainly one of the best cast movies of that decade, because this, I mean, say what you will about Shailene Woodley with all the stuff with her doing Divergent and everything, I never thought she was a bad actress at all. The Spectacular Now is a great one that she's in, but this also, I love just kind of the harsh dynamic of her character. And that's the thing that I think you're going to get from someone like an Alexander Payne. He wrote and directed this film, and he also did The Holdovers from, I think, a year or two ago. And if you watch his films, if you go through his filmography, you'll see that these characters are very honest with each other. They don't try to just put a little bow on every conversation. They speak their mind. And in a way, that's just kind of what I've experienced when it comes to these situations. I just remember a lot of really deep conversations go on at the time of having to let a loved one go. And I think the thing that really punches me in the guts every single time is, even though there is this kind of subplot of this cheating thing, and, you know, Matthew Lillard gets brought into it. I love him. His character sucks, though. Fuck. God damn it, Matthew Lillard. Why?
Elizabeth is dying. Oh, wait. Fuck you. And she's dying. We unhooked her from the machines this morning. She'll be dead in a few days.
But to get down to the meat and potatoes of it, the scenes that really get under my skin and I find deeply unsettling are really the hospital scenes. It's the ones where, you know, you have the kids coming in there, everybody's just kind of sitting around, everybody's finding weird chairs, places to stand and perch, and, you know, you're just having quiet conversations, you know, and watching TV and talking and reminiscing. It's like all that stuff is so spot on, and it's painful to relive that. And it definitely, again, it adds that kind of, that little sting that I think that I need every once in a while. And I found my last viewing of this, which I just did before sitting down to record this, to be very cathartic. And I think that that's something that it made me justify having to mention this a little bit more. Because again, I could see people being like, hey, this is not gonna mess me up, this is sissy stuff. But I think if you are somebody who has experienced this kind of stuff before, you've had a loved one, especially as a younger kid, or even just an adult who's just like miraculously, just very quickly something happens and they're gone, it's one that'll stick with you. And coming in at my number 4 pick, we have to go with 2010's INCENDIES. Twins journey to the Middle East to discover their family history and fulfill their mother's last wishes. I'm going to keep kind of the plot details of this one a bit vague, just because there's a twist in this movie that I feel like everybody tends to overhype. It's a great twist, don't get me wrong. It is shocking. But it's one of those things where I worry that when you kind of build something up, you almost get that Sixth Sense, kind of feeling now, where everybody knows the Sixth Sense has this crazy twist, even if they've never seen the movie. And I don't want that to be the case here. I want you to go into this movie, if you've never seen it, and just take it for what it is. Because this is, just like most of Denis Villeneuve's work, a very, very emotional, very, very home-based kind of drama, where you're watching these characters who have suffered, and you're watching these characters who are trying to deal with grief, and you're watching these characters who have to deal with reveals and plot twists that honestly just reshape their entire world in more ways than one. Yeah, this is a movie that, I think if you're watching it and just on the first half, just on everything, you're going to be a bit confused. But then once everything kind of starts laying in place and you just see these awful, tragic events, surrounding all the events going on over in the Middle East. And, it is something that will certainly deliver more than a few gut punches, especially if you're sensitive to violent content. There is quite a bit, especially when we dive into the mother's history in this film, and the rest of it, though, it's kind of almost dealing with all of these issues, all of these characters who kind of, they've made choices, they've made some mistakes, they've also deliberately gone over the edge into doing some very deplorable acts. And I think this movie, at the end of the day, really what I think unsettles me the most is just how it shows that, one event, just because something happens, doesn't necessarily mean that it's not gonna affect people way down the road, even people who aren't born at the time that event takes place. Moving right along into my number 3 pick, we have 2016's Manchester by the Sea. A depressed uncle is asked to take care of his teenage nephew after the boy's father dies. Keeping it in theme, yes, in 2016, Manchester by the Sea was that depressing Oscar bait kind of movie. And, this one, it's certainly one that when I saw it in theaters for the first time, I'll always remember that day. I went and saw like 3 different movies. I also saw Nocturnal Animals that day. Very good movie. But this one, it's that first viewing, I think I had so much built up in my mind because I'd heard how tragic and how awful this movie was as far as just like what it talks about. And when I saw it for the first time, I was definitely like, oh man, that's depressing, that's sad. But I think as I've gotten older and as I've, experienced more life, especially become a father, there's a lot more that hits with this one. This recent rewatch was pretty eye-opening on two facets, because on the first thing, before we dive really into the sad stuff, this movie actually has some pretty great, like, dark humor. Like, there's a lot of very off-putting, random things that happen in this.
Yeah. Who gives a fuck where you are?
Patty, I swear to God, I'm gonna knock your fucking block off.
Great parenting.
What? What'd you say?
I said great parenting.
Fuck you. Mind your fucking
it's good
business,
parenting.
fucking asshole.
Smash me in the face. Smash me in the
Fuck
face.
you. Mind your fucking
Smash me in the
business.
face.
Don't even smash your fucking face, you fucking asshole.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Thank you. Thank you. It's okay. Uncle Lee, are you fundamentally unsound?
There's a sequence involving a fire that absolutely gut you, especially if you're a parent, because, I'll give you the spoiler warning now. Casey Affleck, his character, basically wants to run down to the corner store and get some drinks one night, and he, notes that the house is a little cold. It's the middle of the winter, so he throws an extra log on the fire, and he didn't screen it, so the log must have rolled out, and the house went up in flames. And only his wife, played by Michelle Williams, was able to be rescued. Both of their young children perished in this fire. And yeah, it's a very rough scene, followed up quickly by the police interrogation scene, where basically Casey Affleck's character comes to the realization that, that he's not going to get any kind of, punishment for this. It was a very tragic accident. And he can't live with that. And he basically takes some very drastic measures, stuff I can't discuss on YouTube, of course, to try to basically end his game early, as they say. It's a 1-2 punch, and, we pretty much start climbing from there. We start building this complicated relationship between Casey Affleck's character and his nephew. And, it's a very, very, again, somber film, but it does have some hopeful moments and some moments kind of sprinkled throughout that, are quite funny, are quite awkward. But you are watching this guy have to basically try for the first time in a long time. And I think the thing that sticks with me the most about this movie is just the persistent void that Casey Affleck's character is throughout this film. This is not a person. We see who he is as a person throughout flashbacks in this film, but what we see now is just nothing. There is nothing there. And he basically says that. He basically admits that. But we are left with a little bit of hope when he seems to be getting everything together, and then he runs into his ex-wife, played beautifully by Michelle Williams, and they have this conversation, and it's a gut-wrenching scene. It's another one that just really, it's one of those scenes that was talked about. It's on the poster. I mean, it is very tough, because you have a person here who has moved on by all accounts, but really hasn't, and is kind of being vulnerable for the first time. And unfortunately, Casey Affleck's character is so distant, he's so dark and so gone, that he has to reject her. He can't grieve with her.
There's nothing there. There's nothing there.
That's not true. That's not
There's nothing there. I'm
true.
serious. You don't understand. And I don't
I'm
know
gonna
what
send
this.
you.
I know you understand. I've got to go. I'm sorry.
And that's incredibly somber. It's incredibly upsetting. And then, yeah, basically we move into the end of the film, which does leave us with a little bit of hope. I won't spoil it for you, but there's a little bit of hope towards the end of this. But it is the littlest sliver, the tiniest shred of hope. And that's what you're left with. It's a very grueling film about grief, but also, I think, a very well shot, very well written, kind of movie, and it feels very personable. And I think that this is one that most people could sit down and watch and, at least enjoy it for the most part, but it's going to hit you, upset you, traumatize you in a few key scenes. And coming in at my number 2 spot, we have 2018's Thunder Road. A police officer faces a personal meltdown following a divorce and the death of his mother. Pay no mind to the wardrobe and slight color change and everything. I didn't, accidentally screw up the audio on my previously recorded piece for this segment. Writer, director, and actor Jim Cummings is somebody I've become a pretty big fan of. I gotta say, I really enjoyed The Wolf of Snow Hollow, as well as the film he starred in that we saw our first year at Fantastic Fest, The Last Stop in Yuma County. Really great stuff. I love the awkward energy that he brings. And this is probably that in one of its more rawer forms, or rawest forms, because this was like before he started popping up in, things like Halloween Kills and little side roles here and there. He was very much just like, an indie darling at this point when he made Thunder Road. And the reason that I'm putting it on this list, because again, this is kind of like a very somber, dark comedy, but the reason I felt that it needed to be placed here is because I like the topic that it kind of tackles. Yes, there's grief. There's both loss of a relationship as well as loss of a parental figure in this one. But really where I think the message hits the hardest for me personally, and I think a lot of fellas will appreciate this pick when I say this, because this has a lot to do with men's mental health.
Is everything okay?
With me? I'm fine. I've never been better in my life. See me wrestle an alligator, help the alligator. You like that one? It's an old one of my dad's, apparently.
There's a lot of personal pressure, a lot of exterior pressures, all put on our character's shoulders here, and he is just barely scraping by. I mean, he's dealing with just about every little thing under the sun you can imagine as being somebody who's, not only dealing with the trauma of losing a parent, but also really just now finding out that your divorce is going through and that your ex-wife is going to be trying to take your child away. It's a really, really tough film to get through, especially because it's a lot of just watching this person crumble and try to put a smile on his face. There's a lot of very awkward scenes. The opening is extremely awkward, and I can see a lot of people being turned off by it because it's just so elongated, and it feels like, we're seeing something that is so embarrassing, so cringy that none of us should have to see it. But, I think it sets the tone of the film really well, and I think that it absolutely brings in that message of just, it's okay for men to be vulnerable.
I'll start myself. My wife left me a year and a half ago. There, laugh it up. I slept in my car. Right here. 3 weeks. Jerry saw it. Isn't that right, Jerry?
Yeah, I brought you breakfast.
Thank you so much for doing that, Jerry. That meant a lot back then. But fuck you right now.
We just don't get a lot of movies that really tackle this subject, I think, in the best light. They never seem to really dive as deep as I feel like Thunder Road goes with it. So this is certainly one that I have to recommend, especially, like I said, to a lot of the male viewers of the channel here. I think that there will be a lot that will resonate with you, because I think that, no matter who you are, they really hit the big ones. There's a lot of, self-deprecation, a lot of just needing to toughen up and get past it, and there's a lot of big messages towards that, and I found it to be very therapeutic, and I'm hoping that although can definitely open some wounds and definitely rock your world a little bit, especially I won't spoil it, but there's a part at the end of this movie that's just like, holy crap, that took a really dark, twisted turn, and yeah, it's rough, but nonetheless, very important movie, so I hope you check it out. And coming in at number 1, yes, whether it's upsetting, traumatizing, or just downright difficult to watch, I have to go with 2010's Blue Valentine. Blue Valentine is the story of love found and love lost, told in past and present moments in time. Flooded with romantic memories of their courtship, Dean and Cindy use one night to try to save their failing marriage. Yes, 2010's Blue Valentine is the film that tops this list. I can't really think of a movie that deals with the trauma, the grief, and the just upsetting and unique nature of failing relationship, a crumbling marriage that is nothing to do with death or anything of that sort. There's no, I guess, true infidelity. It's just simply two people who cannot live with each other anymore.
How come you didn't tell me when we were there?
I don't know, because I was flustered, and I'm telling you now.
You talked then?
No, I mean, like, hi, bye, how are you? Fine, good,
How are you?
Yeah, he asked me how I was.
There's a haunting and rare nature to a story like that, and I love the way that Derek Cianfrance, the director, really looked at this project. This is a passion project and the attempt at what I would say is a masterpiece through and through, because even if you don't consider this a masterpiece, he treated it like one, because the things they did behind the scenes in this movie to prepare and the amount of time he spent on this one singular film, it's nothing short of crazy. Derek Cianfrance spent 12 years working on this script, among other things, when it comes to pursuing just some kind of a role in filmmaking. He wrote this, he worked on it, it went through many different drafts and revisions, and then finally he was ready to go, he was ready to shoot it, and then unfortunately, Michelle Williams, his lead actress, her husband passed away, who was, of course, Heath Ledger, and he needed to delay, obviously, to give her time to deal with everything, deal with the grief. So, yeah, and he didn't want to do the film without her. So, moving forward, the parts of this movie that are, like, early on, and we see, like, you know, their courtship, those were shot first, and then, you know, those were just shot over, like, a 3-week period. And then they took some more time, a few months, and during that time, they had Michelle Williams, Ryan Gosling, and the little girl they had playing their daughter, Frankie, all living together in a house. I believe it was for a month, but they were all living together, and they literally had to live off of the same salaries as their characters, and they just had to get into character. They put a lot of time and effort into making their relationship believable, and the pain of this crumbling marriage is absolutely felt through this. You know, I would say this and then recently A Marriage Story are probably the ones that I would say come close to watching just a tragic, awful crumbling of a relationship, man. Like there's nothing that quite competes with this.
I'm sorry.
I can't do this anymore.
I know. Baby, I'm just fighting, you know, fighting for my family. I don't know what to do. I don't know what else to do.
And yes, I am also admittedly a big Ryan Gosling fan. I love Drive. I love a lot of his other projects. You know, some of the stuff he's done recently is hit or miss for me, but certainly in this era of Ryan Gosling, he was definitely making, I would say, a lot more hits than misses, in my opinion. This is another one that also introduced me to Derek Cianfrance, and I loved his work, and of course when they reteamed a few years later to do The Place Beyond the Pines, that is a film that I cannot wait to discuss, because that is certainly one of the most important films to me personally. But yeah, I truly think that if I am in the mood to get in my feels, if I want to be upset, if I want to watch something that's going to challenge me emotionally and really just get me into this headspace of just, damn, I'm really blessed to have the family that I have and the relationship that I do, because, good Lord, I could only imagine being in these people's shoes. Well, there you have it, folks. There are my 5 films that, let's just sum it up and say, are very difficult to watch. These are movies that deeply unsettled me, affected me, and upset me in a lot of ways. They definitely bring tears to my eyes, and they definitely make me squirm just at the mere thought of some of these scenes. So, yeah, this is definitely a more psychological, more emotional roller coaster than we're used to, but hey, you know, we're here, we're doing it, and I know some of you guys are going to love this. Some of you will hate it, but I assure you, the Human Centipede list is on the horizon. I am working vigorously at it, and I've just kind of been slowing down on it a little bit, admittedly, because of the ban. I just want to be very careful about what I put out without, you know, diminishing the product that we've gotten before. So bear with me just another couple weeks, and I think I'll have that where I think it's safe to upload it. So, alrighty, guys. Other than that, that's going to wrap it up here. So until next time, I'm Dylan Newell, and remember, stay scared.
Do the hard shit, gonna do it live. Cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, gonna slash your ass. 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 Splattercast, gonna slash your ass.